Okay, thank you. So my name is Raphaelle Lesage. I was a researcher at the VPH Institute, which is an international society for in silico medicine. And I recently switched to a new position at SQ Labs, which is ESQ stands for Efficacy, Safety, Quality. And it's a company that does contract research work for biotech and pharma, and they are specialized into model-informed drug development. But today I'm here to talk about knowledge-based modeling and digital twins. And to give you some definitions, because you may not know the terms in silico medicine, so it's this discipline that encompasses all type of usage of computer modeling and simulation in prevention, diagnosis, prognostic, and treatment of different disease. There's another term that you may have heard, which is in silico clinical trials, and it's just a subdomain of in silico medicine. And there are different types of trials in general, in vivo on animal testing, bench testing, which is in vitro, clinical trials, which is also considered in vivo, and then all types of trials that are happening in a computer are called in silico, by opposition to the others. And the general claims that they are in this field about the added value of this type of trials is decreased time for market access for drugs and medical devices, also reduce cost of the development, reduce size of cohorts, reduce animal testing, or improve the testing by looking at considering specific population that are underrepresented in normal trials. And with all of this now, the last definition is about digital twin in healthcare. So in the community of in silico medicine, when we talk about digital twin in healthcare, what this means is all type of subject-specific predictive models that are designed to support decision-making in clinical decision or health product development. And it can be knowledge-driven or more data-driven, as we have seen before with the previous presentation. In most sectors, in most industries, digital twins are also considered to be real-time with continuous update with the real subject or the real system. But in healthcare, it may be the case, but not always, most of the time. And to give a bit more context about what are knowledge-based modeling approaches, they are models based on mathematics that are solved with computers, and they take into account known mechanisms, known laws of physics, laws of biochemistry, physiology, pathology, and they are translated into mathematical equations, and they are solved by computers, and it can target any scale of organization or multiple scales of organization. And of course, they come in complement with data-driven approaches like AI and other approaches. So usually we speak about this spectrum of black box and white box models, because mechanistic models are considered to be more explainable. But of course, you have seen with the previous presentation that they are gray zones, and it's everything can complement each other. So most of the applications are seen in the cardiovascular field. These are some examples of knowledge-based models from a project called SimCardioTest. But I also wanted to highlight another example from the musculoskeletal field that is closer to my heart, because I've done some research on this. And for instance, osteoarthritis is a degenerative disease of the knee joint, and you may have a multi-scale model that is looking at the gait cycle of a human body, looking at how it affects the movement of the joint, the forces in the tissue, how this affects the forces sensed by the cells, and all the intracellular chemistry that is triggered, and how this can affect the degeneration of the cartilage. That's another example. This type of models have impact in therapy development already. Here it's an example from a biosimulation that was proposed by a company called Antelos some years ago, and they predicted the effect of a drug that would be superior to the standard of care that was anti-TNF treatment. And they really, this model really helped to understand the mechanisms underlying this drug. And this output was later confirmed by clinical research. And even 3 years later, the UK National Institute for Care Excellence revised guidance, some guidelines based, support based on this type of findings. There are tools like this developed by this type of communities, like the Open Systems Pharmacology community. They develop tools, software, and they qualify them to benefit to the community. And we see an increasing amount of submission to regulators that are supported by this type of tools. So it's growing, it's accepted, but there's still a long way to achieve this type of complete approaches, because we need for collaborative ecosystem to tackle the different barriers and challenges. And here are some typical barriers and challenges that are recognized in the field. And there are some research projects like the In Silico World project I mentioned here, which are trying to tackle those challenges. For instance, having a clear way to validate and build credibility, having a clear regulatory path, inform policymakers about the need in infrastructures. So evaluate the socio-economical impact as well. So all this type of aspect needs to be covered to have a full uptake of this technology. And so now we'll mention this consortium, the EDIT consortium, because as I was saying, there's a need for a very strong ecosystem collaborating on this subject, and the European Commission is really well aware of that. They have a tool that is called the CSA, Coordination and Support Action, and it's a tool put forward by the European Commission to interact with, to mandate a group of researchers to do some deep thinking on a subject, to come up with a policy recommendation on a specific subject, because Europe wants to invest in the future on that aspect of science. And here the EDIT consortium is about building an ecosystem for digital twins in healthcare. It's coordinated by Professor Lisbeth Gerris, who couldn't be here today, but I'm happy to tell you more about this project. So there are some background investment behind this. Europe has invested in this field already for decades, with the development of a roadmap for in silico trials, the Fusion project, and more. There is also a background of industry network already very active in this field. So the objectives of the EDIT consortium is to build up this ecosystem, to create a roadmap for the vision for a virtual human twin, to put the basis for a repository of resources, models, software, and outline also a simulation platform. So most CSA projects don't have this implementation part, but EDIT in that case does. So there is some outlining also of a simulation platform that would be like a public infrastructure. Those are the members involved in this consortium, and is coordinated by the VPH Institute. And so what is the vision for the virtual human twin as proposed by this consortium? So the virtual human twin is an integrated, multi-scale, multidiscipline representation of the whole body. So it's really an aggregation of information. And it's supposed to allow patient-specific predictions. So do we have this big virtual human twin? Is it feasible? That's a long-term vision. Today, what we have is multiple types of digital twins in healthcare. but we are working on having the correct infrastructures and resources to go towards that ideal virtual human twin, let's say. So a more practical definition will be that the virtual human twin is a systematic and ever-growing digital and quantitative representation of the knowledge that we have about human pathophysiology and so on. It will allow the pooling of plenty of resources to enable modelers to develop digital twins and eventually connect them to go towards a virtual human twin. So it looks like, what it will look like is plenty of resources of models, the models that can be run on platform, engine to search information, search data, being able to connect the right input data with the right model, being able to orchestrate the models together, and have all sorts of scripts and methodologies to use. And to realize this virtual human twin, of course, there's a lot of work required, including on technology, obviously, but also solving a lot of ethical, legal, social issues, what's called LC, and ensuring an uptake among the users, and think about sustainability, having a clear uptake also by companies, small companies, but also large companies. So the strategy at the moment is to go from early success stories to a more sustainability plan. And there are early prototypes that are implemented within the consortium, within the platform. The pathway for sustainability is being built to eventually use this take some lessons learned and propose some policy recommendation to policymakers. There is also a lot of work ongoing on building the ecosystem around the virtual human twin, and it's important for that to promote buying, to have good incentive mechanisms to incentivize developers to provide resources to share their own model on the platform, to be able then to make recommendations. And how, so of course there is a bunch of organizations that have been mandated to do this deep thinking, but the digital edit is also an ecosystem building effort, so it's important to do a lot of public consultation and connect with the ecosystem. So how can people contribute to it? There is a manifesto that has been put forward by the European Commission, and its early signatories are already welcome. There are different steps. The roadmap has been already outlined, at least a first draft of the roadmap. It was normally finalized yesterday. It was the deadline, but some early public consultation have been ongoing on that first draft to integrate them already in what has been finalized yesterday. And it's a project that will be ongoing, so there will be more public consultation next year in 2024. So you're all invited to follow along this development. Yeah. Thank you for your attention.